Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Speakers for Schools Industry Spotlight Talk. I really hope you've been enjoying some sunshine wherever you are. It's been lovely here, and we're delighted that you're joining us today for this talk. I'm Sarah, your host, and you'll be hearing from one of our industry insiders today. An industry insider is someone currently working in the industry, living out experiences that come with building a career. We have up to an hour for this session, and we have a presentation from our speaker before moving into a time of Q&A. Questions for our speaker can be submitted via the Q&A function, which is just under the stream you can see right now. So scroll down a little bit on your screen, you can find that there. It's open from now, so please do submit your questions. We'd love to hear from you. If you're having any issues at all, please let us know via the same box, and we'll do our best to support you there also. So I'm going to pass over to Carole, our speaker today, who is a responsible business manager and young professionals and social responsibility committee chair at Reed Smith. So hi, Carole. Welcome in today.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for that intro. And thank you for the intro, and also thank you for the invite from Speaker for Schools for me having the opportunity to speak to you all about the industry that I work in, which is the industry of law. A huge thank you to everyone who's attending, and I hope what I talk about for the next 25 minutes will be of interest to you, and also you'll have lots of questions afterwards. So I'm just going to go through my PowerPoint slide and talk it through, and then hopefully we'll have some questions at the end. So just a reminder, my name is Carole Mehigan. I am the responsible business manager for EMEA, which stands for Europe, Middle East and Asia. So Reed Smith, we are an international US law firm. We're global, so it means that we have offices all over the world. And as you can see, we have 36 offices based in the US, UK, Europe, Middle East and Asia. Most of our offices are in the US, as we are a US-focused firm, but our largest office is in the UK, because prior to being Reed Smith, the UK office was actually a British firm called Richards Butler. And back in 2008, Reed Smith and Richards Butler decided to merge as one law firm so that we could all have a better global footprint. Hence the reason why we are still a US firm, but the biggest office is the UK. We have over 1,600 lawyers globally. That's an approximation because obviously people come and go all the time, but that's roughly how many we have in all the offices globally. And we also have approximately 1,500 business professional staff globally as well. Business professional staff are people who support the lawyers in various ways. And some of those different career paths I'm going to talk about later through the PowerPoint slide. But that just goes to show when many people are thinking that law firms are just full of lawyers, there are a huge amount of different opportunities that you can find in a law firm if the lawyer route isn't for you. In 2002, we celebrated the 125th year of Reed Smith as a global top 50 law firm, which was very exciting for us and also puts us on the map as being one of the law firms that clients will go to in the first instance, and we continue to hopefully have that challenge going forward. Just want to show you some of our clients, and I'm sure that many of you on this talk will recognise the faces and also some of the companies. I've tried to go for companies and faces that you would recognise, and these are clients that we would work with in the US and around the rest of the world. So a little bit about me. My current role, like I said before, is the responsible business manager for Europe, Middle East and Asia. But primarily I look after the London and Leeds office. So what do I do in my job? I manage all the firm's community volunteering. So that's our outreach projects that support some of the vulnerable areas within our community. Our student programs, which I do student programs age range from 5 right through to 18. You may wonder, what do I do with 5-year-old students? Well, we do an online program, which is a reading program, helping young students to get better at reading, especially in the very formative years of when they're starting their school life. We also do an in-person reading program for students who are slightly older, so 7 to 9. And then students from 10 up to 18, I host insight events. Insight events are an opportunity for students to come in either with teachers in their classrooms from a set school, or they can sign up individually from different schools to come in and find out more about Reed Smith. Who are we? What do we do? Get the opportunity to talk to some of my colleagues who volunteer their time to speak to the students about what they do within the firm, and also just find out whether it's a place that they would like to work in the future. I also host work experience placements for students. The age range is 16 to 18, and also some mentoring programs we have done as well for students, but also for older people as well. So when I say older people, I mean people like in their 20s and upwards. And finally, I do fundraising activities for our London and Leeds offices. And these fundraising activities are all about supporting charities that need promoting of awareness and promoting not only what they do to support others, but also helping them to raise money for those charities so they can continue the great work. I also oversee the community volunteering in our Europe, Middle East and Asian offices and some of our US offices. I'm trying to globalise a platform between us in London and some of the US offices. So, for example, the online reading programme, they also have a US version, and our New York office last year took part in that. And I'm hoping to extend that to other US offices and to continue building the global platform. How did I come to get the job? So I have worked at the firm for 17 years. I spent 7 years of working here as what we now call an executive assistant, but was previously called a legal secretary. So I basically worked for lawyers, assisting them doing lots of administrative stuff, such as typing up reports, doing letters, emails, taking calls, taking messages, organising meetings, organising travel, sorting out their billing for their clients, all sorts of administrative tasks that they couldn't do because they needed to concentrate on their client work. I've now been doing this role for 10 years. So I've actually been doing this role longer than I was a legal secretary. But my past sort of career life has always been as a legal secretary. And I've been working in the legal industry for about 30 years now. So a very, very long time. I would say the top subject to study for my role is English. You need a good English level. But I would say from a key skills point of view, excellent communication, listening, teamwork, and organisation skills would be my top strengths and my priority. And when I say teamwork, I don't mean necessarily a team that I have with myself, because I am actually the only person who does my role within the whole firm. So my team really are the volunteers that take part in all the volunteering opportunities. So I'm looking at over 600 people, because predominantly I'm looking after the London office, and over 100 people in Leeds, because I also look after the Leeds office and all the activities that go on there. So they are really my team. So I have to have really good, excellent communication and listening and organisation skills. So I just wanted to touch upon some of the different careers that you can find in a law firm. So obviously at the top, I've put lawyer, and I've put the different types of lawyers that you can find. And I'm going to go into them in a bit more detail in a moment on the next slide. So you start off as a trainee, and then you become an associate, and then you become a partner. That's if you go the lawyer route. However, if you want to look at something else, want to do something different within the firm, I've picked out a few choices that some people might be interested in hearing more about. So that's marketing, human resources, also known as HR, facilities and IT. Again, I will go through each of the career paths that I've mentioned below each of the headings in a bit more detail in each of the slides. So talking about the lawyer route first, a trainee is a person training to be a lawyer. So they're doing their university degree, and they are also doing a training contract. So the training contract is for 2 years here at Reed Smith. Some other law firms do training contracts for either a longer space of time or a shorter space of time. But our trainees do a 2-year contract. And that is broken up into 4 6 months, where they spend 6 months in different areas within the firm. So different practice areas, which means they learn about different types of law within our organisation. They can also, if they want to, they can have a 6-month secondment. Now, secondment is basically when you leave the firm for 6 months, but you are still paid by the firm and you go elsewhere. So that secondment could either be going to one of our other offices. So we currently have secondments to our New York office, Singapore office, and our Paris office, or they can go to a client office. So we work with a lot of clients who will sometimes will swap over their trainee for our trainee. And so the trainee will then have an opportunity to work what's called in-house, which means that they're working just for that client. Our lawyers here at Reed Smith were in private practice, so it means that they have multiple amounts of clients that they work for. If you also want to do a secondment, you can do it in our pro bono practice. Now, pro bono is our free legal advice that we give to people who can't afford legal advice. And our pro bono team, they work with non-governmental organisations, they work with individuals, and they work with lots of different charities. And they work with teams of people within the firm. So that allows the firm to work with multiple people across the pro bono practice. Now going on to an associate. An associate is a person who is qualified as a lawyer after completing their training contract. So after they've completed their 2 years, if they're offered a job here at Reed Smith, they will decide where they would like to be practicing law. So they may have, say, for example, done entertainment and media during their training contract and decided that is where they'd like to do their associate career within entertainment and media. Not everyone always gets their first choice. So sometimes you might have to look at other areas within the firm. But we try to, as best as we can, through our graduate recruitment team, to give everyone their first choice. So as an associate, you're then building up your client base. So you are actually still working under a more senior lawyer, but you've also got the opportunity to start building up your own client base. And you could probably have a new trainee who would work under you, who you would then be giving work to and supporting them and also being their supervisor. Associates will then have an opportunity as they climb the ladder to then become a partner. You won't really get to be a partner until you're quite senior. So you probably need to be practicing law for at least 10 years plus and working with lots of different clients. We have two types of partners. We have what's called salaried partners. Now, salaried partners are people like everybody else. They get a salary at the end of each month. But they bring in lots of clients, they speak to clients, they bring in new business, they do lots of different matters as well. You've also got equity partners. Now, equity partners, they are another level up. Now, they have to be voted in by what's called a senior management team. And that is a senior management team of very high top level lawyers to decide whether somebody is able to be part of the equity partnership. And to be part of the equity partnership, you also have to put money into the business. So that means you buy almost like shares into the company. So if the business is doing really well and making good profit, you as an equity partner will get a share of that profit. However, if the business is not doing very well and loses money, you can also lose money as part of being the equity partner and having shares in the company. I can say with pretty good honesty that we pretty well do make profit pretty much every year, and I think most law firms do. So I think the equity partners can safely say that they are making money, but they're also very high up, so they have to do a lot more than most of the other lawyers that work within the firm. So moving on from being a lawyer, marketing. So business development is an area also known as BD. Business development work with lawyers to help them complete the goals of the firm and the firm's clients with their goals too. They help create pitches and proposals for lawyers to present to new clients to enable them to get more business for our firm. Sometimes we also have to pitch for repeat business from clients, especially if they decide they might be looking at other law firms. Public relations, also known as PR, they speak to the media on behalf of the firm and do press releases about firm business. So if anything goes out there in the public eye, goes into social media, goes into newspapers, anything like that, it all goes through our public relations. And they're the only people that can actually speak on our behalf to the media. Events team, they help to arrange events either in person or virtually, and they'll organise for clients to attend if they're invited. So our events team is really crucial to making sure that we can have events that not only are for our people internally, but also for our clients to attend as well. And then finally, marketing solutions team. They provide support on digital marketing activities throughout the firm. So this is where we're coming into things like AI, and we're coming into innovation stuff, and doing a lot of things online. Moving on to the next slide. Human resources, also known as HR. So HR look after all staff in the firm with their personal needs, and they also hire people for jobs. So they will hire people for mainly in the business service professional side, but they will also have a team that will hire what we call lateral hires. And these will be lawyers that are coming from other law firms that want to come to work at Reed Smith. So we have various teams within HR who don't just look after our staff, but they also look after people who are coming into the business and also people who are leaving, but also they are looking after globally everyone that's in the firm. Learning and development, also known as L&D within the firm, help staff to continue learning how to progress in their career and support with personal development through training courses. So even though, we work within our different roles and we're pretty well known for what we can do within the roles, you never stop learning. It's just like being at school. You can always learn more. There's always stuff that you can find out. I found out a lot more about my role as I was doing my role, but with the help of having extra coaching if I needed it, or having extra training sessions through learning and development, that also helped me to really become very familiar with my role and to make the best of my role to where I am now. Graduate recruitment team, they hire our trainee lawyers. So they are the ones who talk to university students about the opportunities that you can find in a law firm. Not only do they hire the trainee lawyers, but they also have lots of opportunities that they can give out to university students while they're going through their university degree, and also giving them an insight into what a future lawyer looks like. So they will have things like insight days. They will also have vacation schemes, and vacation schemes are an opportunity for the university student to come in for a week, work within a practice area of law while they're still studying, but also get an insight into us as a law firm. They also do things like that. We've got some new things coming up as well. So we have solicitor's apprenticeship, which isn't in place at the moment, but we're trying to get that in place as soon as possible. And we have placement students. So placement students, they are at university and they take some time out of their university studies, although they continue to study, but they take time out from university to come into our law firm and work with our lawyers. Moving on. Facilities. So our facilities team, they divide in two areas. Print room, which do all our printing, especially large printing jobs for people within the firm. So every floor does have printers, so we can actually do printing that we need. But sometimes you'll need more printing done than you can actually do on the normal printers that we have on each floor. Or sometimes you need a size that we don't do on the normal printers on the floors. So you would go to the print room and they would be able to do whatever print stuff that you need doing. They also can help out with other things as well. So they're a good source of things like getting stationery, for example, getting things ordered, etc. And that's really helpful as well. The post room team, they deal with all the posts coming into the building and will deliver the post to the people on the different floors. As you can imagine, if people had to go to the post room and pick up their post every day, not only would it be quite chaotic, but it would also mean that the floor would be inundated with people. It's much easier for them to deliver to people on different floors. It also doesn't mean that they have to take time away to go and pick up their post. Also, we have a courier service. So when post goes out, if it has to get somewhere really quickly, we have someone who can organise couriers. And couriers are basically people who come on bikes, mainly motorbikes, but some do have cycles. And we use a particular courier service. They will send the right type of transportation. So if there's a lot of stuff that has to be couriered, they may send a small van. So the post room, again, are very essential to helping the business to continue running and functioning. Lastly, our information technology, or IT as we know it within the firm. IT teams are really, really primarily engaged with the people within the firm, and they are really helpful to us to ensure that our IT is working at all times. So first of all, we have our desk side support team. Each office has a team of people who can help with any technical problems with their computers in person. So each office, such as our London office, we have a team here. So if I have a problem with my laptop or my screen or any other technical problems I may have, they can come directly to my floor, directly to my desk and help me out. They can also help me from their desk, which is also called remote assistance. And that means that they can help me without them having to leave their desk. But most of the time, if you're getting desk side support team to come and help you, they will come and see you in person. However, we also have a global IT team. This is a global team of IT people based in one of our US offices. They're on 24-hour calls, so there's people working around the clock because obviously our office is in different time zones and people are always going to need IT assistance at some point. They provide virtual assistance to any of our offices globally, which means that they do give you the remote service. And actually, they're the first point of call when you do need IT servicing. So, for example, if I was in the office like I am today, I had a problem, I'd ring a number, which is a 4-digit number, that would take me straight directly to the global IT team. They would remote access and they would try to solve my problem. However, if they can't do that, what they would then do is they would send an email with the information of what my problem is, and then desk side support would come and help me in person. And I think I've come to the end of my slides. So I've done it well within the time. So over to any questions, Sarah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Carole. That was really, really great. And I love how you broke down the different roles that you can get into. That was really, really helpful. So thank you so much. Yeah, we're going to start with some pre-submitted questions that we've had in, then we'll go into some live ones that have come in.
Absolutely.
So this one's from Harton Academy, and they're asking how much money is made on average working in law?
So if you're talking about how much individual people make, that's very hard to say. I mean, lawyers, obviously, they make a lot of money. Depending on the level that you're at, you will make more money as you go up the ladder. If you're talking about business service professionals, again, depending on your career path, depending on your team, the head of your team, and HR, they will dictate how much you will earn individually. As a business, I would say that we're probably earning, like other law firms, you're talking into the billions over time because obviously we have a lot of clients, we do a lot of work, it's quite expensive, so the firm does make a lot of money.
That is great. Thank you for giving us like the kind of individual and business side of things as well. Another question from Thornhill College. They're asking, what is your favorite thing about your role? And also, what do you feel are the most challenging elements of your role?
So I love this question. My favorite thing is doing this sort of stuff. My favorite thing is working with students, giving them an insight into what we do. Yesterday, I was hosting and delivering another student event here in person, which was great. I love the student programs that I do, the insight events, the work experience, the mentoring. I also love the outreach projects because it gives us an opportunity to go out and help people who are within the vulnerable communities where they wouldn't not necessarily meet us, we wouldn't necessarily meet them, but it gives us some downtime as well, which helps our mental health and well-being. And obviously fundraising is also always fun to do with team people, in big teams of people, get to meet some of our colleagues that we don't see every day potentially. So that's my, overall, everything I do is probably the best part of my day. I would say, what do I find challenging? I suppose getting volunteers can be a bit of a challenge, although in my 10 years now almost, I find that I am able to get volunteers signed up really quickly for opportunities. It's becoming less of a challenge, which is great. Keeping up on admin, that is definitely a challenge. Being a team of one and doing everything, hosting, delivering, managing, organising, etc., it does mean that my admin sometimes sits on the back burner, and I then have to find some time. Usually the summer break helps me because that's when the schools are closed, colleges, unis, etc. So I have less student programs going on. So that's when I do try to catch up on my admin and then get myself ready for the last quarter of the year when I have more student programs going on and more activities and stuff.
Yeah, it's that kind of like organization coming in there, like just having your your hand on everything that's going on and just being like on point for them. That sounds, yeah, challenging, but it seems like you're doing really well
Thank
at that.
you.
So
Thank
thank
you.
you for sharing that. We have some live questions coming
Excellent.
in. I'm guessing this one is from the slide that you had with like the different companies and
Mhm.
celebrities on there. Someone's asking, have you met any famous people?
Have I met any famous people? Unfortunately, I haven't met any famous people. I did work in the entertainment and media team when I was working as a legal secretary, stroke executive assistant, but I didn't really get to meet anybody. Unfortunately, when they bring in like celebrities, for example, so I remember a few years back, Rihanna was in the country and she wanted to see the lawyers that she was working with on one of the cases that they were working with her. And they brought her in at the weekend just so it stopped people knowing that she was coming in. They have a tendency to do that because they know that people will be inundated with people rushing around trying to get a good look at the celebrities. The only person I can say that I have met, and I don't know, many of your students might be too young to remember him, but Gordon Brown used to be a prime minister. The adults will know, they can educate the children. But Gordon Brown is an ex-prime minister, and he and his wife started up a charity. And the charity is now part of one of the charities that we support. And I do remember one day he was coming in, not because of the charity, he was coming in for something completely different. I think he was just coming in for a meeting. And I had just finished an event with some primary school students, and the teachers and I were lining them up to sort of escort them out to where the lift area was to get them out the building. And just as we were lining them all up, Gordon Brown came out of the next room. And I sort of take it, I sort of just didn't make any fuss, as you do. And the children were kind of a little bit, oh, who's that? Didn't really take much notice. But all the adults, the teaching staff, were all like, oh, that's Gordon Brown. And there was loads of whispering. And they were like so shocked that they saw somebody who they knew, who was like not a celebrity, but somebody that people knew from seeing on the telly. And the kids were just, they didn't have a clue. But that's probably the only person I could say that I've actually met in person.
That is still quite cool though. I think when you go from seeing someone on the screen to in person, it is that kind of
Yeah,
shock, isn't it? Oh, I'm like, oh, you're actually here, you're
absolutely.
real. So I love their reaction. That's hilarious. We've got a question from Eggles Cliff School. They're asking, what job did you want to have as a child?
Great. That's a great question. And I love answering this question. So my backstory is I wanted to be a secretary. At that point, I didn't actually know what that was. And I wasn't talking about thinking of going down to the legal route because I didn't know there was such a thing. Um, might sound really surprising, but I decided what I wanted to be when I was 6. So I unfortunately went to a couple of schools where I was bullied a lot. And I found that getting involved in reading, getting involved in books gave me an opportunity to take myself away from what was happening in day-to-day life when I was at school, and gave me this world of mystery and fantasy that I could be somebody different. And the reason I wanted to be the secretary is because I was watching a film and there was a person there and they were typing on an old school typewriter. And I didn't know what they were doing, but I just knew that when they were hitting these buttons, which were called keys, they were making words. And I was just like, wow, she's a magician. I thought she was a magician because it was like magic. And then someone came into the room that she was in and said something to her and um, said the word secretary. And I gripped onto that and I was like, that's what I want to do. Went and told my mum, she had no clue what I was talking about. Anyway, long story short, I got my first play typewriter when I was 9. When I was 14 and in high school, I took after school classes in knowing how to touch type, which is how I type now. And then I got my first job typing in a typing pool at 17 after leaving college. So I did a year of secretarial studies, business studies. I took my English studies again so I could get a higher grade. And I did also, it was called word processing back in those days, but I think it's called computer science or something like that. And then, like I said, got my first job at 17, got promoted to a secretary by the time I was 19, and then did my first legal role at the age of 20.
that is such a cool journey. I love that, and I love that you were able to kind of like stick on it and still find it along the way, even from such a young
Absolutely. My
age.
mum wanted me to be a nurse.
That's really inspiring.
Absolutely dedicated to being secretary.
That is really great. And we've actually got a question in. Someone's asking, what is a legal secretary?
Yeah. So a legal secretary, basically that's somebody who helps the lawyers. So they will do all the admin type thing. They will do things like typing up reports, typing up letters. When I say typing, I mean obviously on laptops, on computers nowadays, not on the typewriter. They will do emails on behalf of lawyers, or they will sort out emails that are coming in. They will do things like billing, so they will sort out bills that need to go out to clients. They'll organise meetings. They'll also organise business trips. They're anything and everything, photocopying anything and everything that the lawyer needs doing, a legal secretary will do. And they take basically away the administrative tasks from the lawyer, so the lawyers can concentrate on doing the client work, because that's where the money is. You know, they're making money for the firm, and that's how I get paid, and everyone else who works in the business side, but also that's how the lawyers get paid. So it's great to be able to support them in that way. But also as a legal secretary, it's amazing how much legal stuff that you learn, how much legal jargon, which is the kind of legal talk that they have. Like I said, I've been in the industry about 30 years now. I would say I could probably know as much as a lawyer. I just can't practice being a lawyer because I don't have the degree.
I'm sure you probably like, yeah, get a lot of information in as you've been in the space for so long, and you know so much that way. Thank you so much for that. Another question here: what are the key differences between working in corporate law, criminal law, human rights law, etc.? Is there any like key
Differences.
differences
So
between all of
corporate law,
those?
you're mainly a lot of your clients will be corporate partners, corporate and commercial partners. So they will be business to business. We do a lot of corporate. We mainly do corporate law. So we're business to business. So you will find that most big law firms, like based in the city, will do corporate law or commercial law. If they're doing any type of criminal law, it will be more like what they called white collar criminal law, and that means it will be where maybe a business has done something wrong, and so they're getting sued, and so you know, and it's a criminal act. So maybe they, for example, they haven't paid their taxes or something, and it's not just they haven't paid them on time; they just haven't paid them, and that's a criminal offence. So they may be taken to court. That's called white collar criminal law. However, criminal law, in what most people will see criminal law, so when you see things on telly, when someone is in the dock and there is a judge and there is a jury, and then there's barristers speaking on behalf, you know, if someone's committed a crime, they've done something really, really bad. A lot of the time, they will be looked after by what we call high street lawyers, or lawyers who are in a particular law firm that actually only does that type of law. I would call them like boutique law firms, because they would only do one type of law rather than what we do. We do lots and lots of different types of law. And what was the other one? There was corporate.
Yeah, it was corporate, criminal law, and
Human
human
rights
rights
law.
law.
So human rights law, again, you would have specific lawyers that will do that. Now you have some of those lawyers will be in big law firms, so they will be doing that with the big law firms, and they probably will be doing that as part of their pro bono work. But then you'll also find like immigration lawyers, for example. Again, they will be possibly in your local high street, or they will be in smaller boutique firms, because that is the main hub of the law that they will do, will be immigration law. We don't have immigration lawyers here in Reed Smith, but we do a lot of immigration law through our pro bono work. So what we do is we actually work with other law firms that provide immigration lawyers. So where a lot of the time, you know, law firms are sort of bidding for work from other law firms, pitching for work from different clients, we also do come together when we need to actually work for the wider community and support those, especially through pro bono, with getting the legal legal assistance that they need.
That is really, really nice. I mean, there's some similarities, I guess, between all of them, but also like some differences you mentioned. So thank you for answering that one. And then you mentioned as well that Reed Smith is an international company. A question here: someone's asking, is it difficult to work across different time zones with people?
It's not difficult. It just means that sometimes when you're sleeping, other people are awake, and vice versa. When I was a legal secretary, there were times when I was working with my lawyers that I was supporting, and we'd be working with clients who were in a different time zone in a different country, and so we would be working through the night to work with them because they would be that would be their daytime, and so I could be have worked my whole day in the office with my other lawyers, and then I might be supporting my same lawyers or other lawyers with working through the night. I mean, I can remember one example. When I was a legal secretary, I was working for my lawyers in my team, and then they needed a secretary to stay overnight to work with other lawyers in a different team because they were doing a case. They were coming up to closing a client case, and they were right on the edge of closing it, and they needed that support. They needed somebody to be able to type up all the reports and do the amendments and etc. etc. And I remembered I worked literally 24 hours without any sleep. So I started my day on a Tuesday at 9:30, and I finished my not day. I finished my working time 9:30 on Wednesday morning. So, and that
That
was
is a
that was
long
no sleep as
time.
well. So how I'm amazed that I managed to stay awake. I remember thinking, this is really strange because you could see daylight coming up, and then the cleaners came in about 5 in the morning, and they were sort of trying to hoover around my legs and stuff. It was very strange. Needless to say, I went home and got some sleep, but then I came back into the office
Yeah,
later
good.
on.
Oh my goodness, doesn't stop. But yeah, that is a long time to work straight without any breaks. So yeah, that is really really impressive. But rest is also
This is
very
very
important.
important. And can I just say very
Yeah,
quickly, that is not a
yeah,
regular occurrence. Those are things that normally happen when a deal is closing and we need that extra support. But we don't work those long hours all the time. So I don't want anyone being put off thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to work in that role because I'll never go home and never sleep. Those are very far and few between.
yeah. That's good. That's good to hear. Someone's asking, what would be a good place, or where would be some good places to get work experience? I guess to get into law or to
Yeah.
start their career. Yeah, where would be
So
some
I
good
think I
places?
think the thing is with work experience, any type of work experience is good work experience. People, I think students feel that if they want to get into the law industry, they've got to focus on getting just legal work experience. And that's totally not true. We want you to come with an abundance of whatever work experience or whatever experiences you can get. Even insight days. I say to my students that come in for insight days, put them on your application forms, put them on your CV, talk about them if you have an interview anywhere. It doesn't always have to be legal work experience. What we want to see is what sort of work experience you've done and how can you translate that into doing another type of work going forward. So it's all about transferable skills. You can learn a lot by being, for example, a barista in a coffee shop because you're working with customers, you're handling money, you're doing various stuff, you're giving service to customers, not just when they're buying something, but you might be going to tables, etc., and serving customers at tables. You might be working in a restaurant doing that. And actually, the stuff that you learn through that will build up your soft key skills. But also, you think about, if you're a bit, I'm using the barista again, serving coffees to clients, you could then be a lawyer, you know, servicing clients in a different way, in the legal way that they need you to do. So I would say when you're looking for work experience, first of all, any work experience I think is good work experience. If you primarily want to look at getting law work experience, first of all, check out your high street law firms because they sometimes need an extra pair of hands and they can't necessarily afford to have lots and lots of people working in their firm. So especially summertime, they might need, because summertime is a time when a lot of people do start taking holiday time off. They may need an extra pair of hands of someone coming in to do things like filing, copying, photocopying, putting things in, doing other bits and pieces, making coffee, making tea, whatever, answering the phones. It will give you that opportunity to learn and hear what goes on in a law firm, in a local law firm. But also, if you want to go to a bigger law firm like us, then I would say be proactive. Send them. I've had many um, work experience emails come through our HR team asking for work experience. And that's a really good way to do that. I would say find out a little bit more about the law firm and what sort of law they do. If you're going to send an email, try to make the email sound as if you really know about them and their business, because that will make them have a better understanding that you actually want to work there in whatever capacity.
Yeah, that's really, really helpful advice. Thank you for that and breaking that down. Another question here from Eggles Cliff School. They would like the roles of solicitors and barristers to be broken down. So they're asking what are the roles of solicitors and barristers. But yeah, could you break that down for
Okay,
us?
so I broke it down in the first slide with the lawyer side. So that was the trainee, the associate lawyer, which is somebody who's qualified. So they've done a training contract, they're now qualified, and they will follow up the scale until they get to maybe 10 years plus, and then they might try to go into become a partner. One thing I did miss out, and I realised afterwards, is there is also a level called counsel, and that is a person that would be going from transitioning from being an associate lawyer to wanting to be a partner lawyer, but they will do a period of time as counsel, which is when they are starting to build up more on their client services and trying to build up their client profile as well, or portfolio, should I say. So those are kind of the different levels. And as I said, there was salaried partners and equity partners within a law firm. The difference with a solicitor or lawyer, whichever way you want to term it, to a barrister is that barristers don't work in law firms unless they're ex-barristers. So they may have been a barrister before they decided to change over and become a lawyer. And they can do that because they will have had to have trained as a lawyer and then do another type of training to become a barrister. So they're all covered. Barristers, you will find they basically work in what's called chambers. And chambers they're like it's like an office building attached to a court. So they will be very close to the courtrooms. And because they're working within the courtrooms, they won't be working in law firms. And what happens is that lawyers, like our lawyers, they will not be able to go into a courtroom and deliver a court case to a judge, for example, because they don't have the necessary qualifications, or they haven't done the next level of training to be able to do that. So barristers actually act on our behalf. So a lawyer will act on behalf of a client, and then the client will then, if it's necessary for it to go to court, the client will then have a barrister. So they'll have a lawyer and a barrister, and the barrister will be the person that works with the lawyer. So the lawyer will then give the barrister all the paperwork they need, all the information, talk to them over numerous emails, telephone calls, etc. So the barrister is fully knowledgeable about the case before it goes into the court and before it goes in front of a judge. And it will either go through a judge on their own with no jury. I think you find that most of the time there will be a jury if it's more criminal, rather than if it's just like a corporate business situation. Barristers are also self-employed. So barristers have to go out and find their own work, which can be quite challenging sometimes. But if they're really, really good and they get a lot of work, they can make a lot of money. And they can also decide when they want to work. So they're a bit more flexible about their time. But sometimes being a barrister, like I said, it's not always about you can't always make loads of money. So sometimes barristers will in time decide to be a lawyer. And then you've got your in-house lawyers and you've got your private practice. And just to reiterate what those two differences are, an in-house lawyer is someone who works for one client. That client is the company that employs them. So say, for example, you're working for McDonald's. McDonald's have got a legal team, not the people obviously that you see serving. They'll have a legal team in their head office. That legal team will work solely for McDonald's with all the legal stuff that they need to be doing. However, if there is something that comes up that their legal team can't deal with, McDonald's legal team will then reach out to private practice lawyers, which is what our lawyers are. So we would then work for McDonald's with their legal team to sort out what that issue is. So that's the difference between private practice and in-house lawyers.
Yeah. That's really, really helpful. Thank you for breaking that down, and for all that information. Another anon question has come in, and they're asking what can make a law student stand out amongst competition.
Oh, good question. Um, I would say for a law student to stand out, come to the table with as much stuff as you can. So, like I was saying, work experience. You don't have to just go for legal work experience. If you've got work experience in other areas, brilliant. It's a great talking point. If you've got hobbies, interesting hobbies, anything that is out of the kind of normal type of hobby, great. What we want to see is we want to see what you can bring to the table. We want to see how you can work in a team, how you can be part of a team of people who all come with differences. So I think, standing out is basically bring you to the table, bring what you can contribute to the firm, to the team, etc. And don't hide things. Don't hide yourself under a bushel. Be very, I think, I can say, just be you. We want people to be authentic. We want people to be their true selves, and not sort of pretend to be someone else, because you can only do that for so long, and you'll get found out. But yeah, no, if you just come as you are, basically, and share what you have learned and your experiences that you've got so far, and what you're looking to aim to learn more about. That's brilliant. That's what we want.
Yeah, it's true. Like you're your own superpower. Like what you give as an individual is really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And we've got time for a couple
Sure.
more questions. As we start to round up. I know it's gone quick. Another question here from Egglescliff School. They're asking what interests you the most about your job.
What interests me the most is basically, like I said before, it's working with people. I would say, basically, I'm the face of Reed Smith when it comes to community volunteering. Like I said, globally, I am the only person in the firm of 3,100 people that do my role. So very, very unique. Like I said, I concentrate on London and Leeds primarily, but also I'm globalizing wherever I can with other offices, because that's what we work as. We work as one big team of an office. Um, I think, I love the fact that I have the opportunity to shine a light on Reed Smith. I have the opportunity to talk to young people, students today, adults as well, about what I do, but also who we are as a firm. I'm hoping that this will encourage and inspire young people and students to want to come to our firm in the future. Yesterday when I was hosting that event, one of the students said to me just before they left, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but now I've got a better idea. You can't get better feedback than that. To know that someone's walked out of that room, out of 21 students, one of those students, and more, because one or two came up and actually shook my hand and thanked me as well, which I thought was really cute. But that one student has already taken away that positivity to think, actually, this is a place that I might want to work in. And that's what we're here for. We're here to break down the ceilings. We're here to break down we want to demystify, what people thought law firms used to look like. We're no longer a law firms that is one size fit all. It's no longer we're no longer a law firms or a legal industry where you all had to be male and white and come from really good backgrounds, come from rich backgrounds, or come from a long line of family of lawyers and all that. We're not like that anymore. You don't have to go to the top universities. University now, we've got so many people from different universities. If you get the degree and we can find you a role and we think that you bring something to our firm, then yep, we want you in the firm.
That is great, thank you. And one last question, I think I will end with this one. Someone's asking what is the one thing you wish you'd known before starting your career, I guess, into law, or yeah, your first role.
So one thing I wanted to know before I started my first legal journey. I don't think there was one thing. I think for me, I was very, very fortunate that the law firm that I started my legal career in was looking for someone who was, for want of a better term, a blank sheet of paper. They didn't want someone who came with legal experience. They just wanted somebody who had good, strong secretarial skills and who was willing to learn. And I think for me, that was the greatest advantage for me getting into the legal sector, because they opened the door for me. And yes, there wasn't many people who looked like me. There, even in the secretarial pool, it was mainly white girls, and a lot of them were older than me, etc., because I was starting from quite a young age, getting into the legal field. Um, so I don't think there was any one thing that I wish I'd known before, because I think for me, I was always very interested in learning more, and I learnt better on the job. I was so much better than academically wise. I wasn't the top person in the top levels at schools. I was pretty mediocre. I had pretty mediocre results, but I managed to get into college and I managed to make them better. But for me, I'm very much one of those people that learns while I'm earning, so to speak. And I've learned everything that I do now has been while I've been working through it. So for me, it's a case of I enjoy what I do. I feel like I've had a second bite of the vocational cherry. So, I did what my first role was. I did that for a long time. I exhausted it until the point where I was like, where do I go next? And then all of a sudden, this role came up, kind of fell into my lap. Although I had to apply for it like everybody else, I was up against other people. But, here I am going on for 10 years, and I'm absolutely, every day I feel very happy and blessed to be in this role, and that Reed Smith saw something in me that even I didn't see at the time that could make this role so much better, and make the firm so much better within the community.
That is really, really nice. Thank you for sharing that. And I guess kind of like on the similar, I guess, path of that last question, one more question I'd like to ask you before we close is, do you have any like last bits of wisdom or nuggets of advice you can give our young people listening who have listened today and they want to get into law, or they're not too sure yet? But yeah, anything you want to leave our young people with
Yeah,
today?
absolutely. I think what I would say to everyone who's listening, young and old, don't ever give up on your dreams. If you decide you want to follow a particular path, give it a go. I always say to students, the only person who can stop you from achieving what you want to achieve is you. So whether it's in law, whether it's somewhere else, whether it's a lawyer, or whether it's in a business service capacity, whether it's a different industry altogether, go forth and try it. Get those results. If you don't get the results, always see if there's a way round that you can still get into what you wanted to do. One of the things I didn't mention is when I wanted to get into college, the college course I originally wanted, I couldn't do because my exam results weren't as good as they should have been. And I cried. I thought, this is it. My journey into being a secretary has already ended before it started. And then one of my very, very close friends, who was my best friend at the time, actually at school, says to me, why don't you just call them? Call them and ask them if there's another course you can do. And I didn't think about that because I was so overwhelmed with the fact I didn't get the course I wanted. And I rang them and they said, yeah, that's absolutely fine. We can put you in a different course. And that was what gave me that opportunity to continue my journey. So don't ever feel that if you have a little bit of a fall or a stumble on your way to getting your career path on the map, there's always possibly someone who's going to be able to get you back on that path. But be you, be true to yourself, go for your vision, go for your dream, think big, act big, and get that dream for yourself.
What a great way to end. Thank you so much, Carole, for your time. It's been really, really great. And you've been so, so giving with information. I think you've inspired a lot of people listening. So thank you so much for that. It's been really great having
Thank you,
you.
Sarah. It's been absolutely wonderful to be part of this discussion. Thank you again for the invite. Thank you to everyone who's listening,
Of course.
and good luck with everything in the future.
Thank you so much. Okay, that's all we have time for today. Thank you to all of you again for being here, for listening, sending in your questions. It's been a really, really great session full of information. Hopefully, you feel inspired. There'll be a feedback poll going live right now, so please let us know how you found today. Also, if you haven't got time to do that right now, it'll be sent out via email, so look out for that as well. and let us know how you found the session. Awesome. Thank you again for being here. See you soon for another talk. Have a good rest of your day. Bye, everyone.